Regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that adequate notice of this work session, regular meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, was made by the posting on the bulletin board at the municipal complex and transmitted to the officially designated newspapers a list of dates annually, indicating that this work session regular meeting would take place at the Franklin Township Municipal Complex at 7 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday, February 11th, 2014. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public, is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation, which will be given by me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we gather here today as members of the Township Council, we're ever mindful of the opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens in our community, keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let's strive to make a better world, and let all of us here govern and draw strength to administer our tasks with foresight and compassion and wisdom. Amen.
Amen.
Madam Clerk, please poll the council. Please take the roll of the council.
Councilman Chase?
Here.
Councilwoman Francois? Councilman Kramer?
Here.
Mayor Levine?
Here.
Councilman Prasad?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
11th, right?
Councilwoman Sherman?
Here.
Councilman Vasanella?
Here.
Councilman Wright?
Here.
Okay, thank you very much. We are following along on our agenda. You can get them over here by Clerk Ms. McCarthy. There's associated resolutions and ordinances. There's no rudeness. You can feel like you get up at any time and get them. If you want to know what's happening at the meeting, the weekend before usually, our agenda is on our website. And if you click on the ordinances, resolutions, you can see the whole thing in front of you, so you can see what's happening at our meeting. So we are now at item number 5 on the agenda, commendations regarding Eagle Scouts. And if Councilman and former Boy Scout, well, you're not
Yes,
former Boy Scout, okay.
always a Boy Scout.
Always, and Boy Scout James Vasanella will join me.
I just wanted to go grab something. Never happened. Oh, well.
There you go. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to give out these commendations on behalf of Franklin Township, the mayor, and the entire council. There's 2 Eagle Scouts here tonight, and they're not the only 2. Just happen to be 2 that I'm familiar with and was able to go to one of the Eagle Court honors and felt that it was a proper thing to do to recognize them for their commitment to scouting and to the community they live in. So I'm going to ask that scouts and parents come up here. Let me read this first, and please come up and say a couple words on what scouting means to you and your experience with our Eagle Scout project. Okay, you can come up now. It's fine. Whereas the Eagle Scout Award is the highest honor which can be attained within the ranks of the Boy Scouts, and whereas Carter Cordray of Boy Scout Troop number 113 has attained such award, and whereas Carter built a ramp to a storage shed and replaced the roof of another storage shed at the Somerset Presbyterian Church at 100 John F. Kennedy Boulevard in Franklin Township, Somerset Presbyterian Church is the charter organization that supports Carter's troop, and he wanted to give back to them in thanksgiving for all they have done for his troop. Now therefore I, James Vassanella, Councilman of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, on behalf of the Township Council and the citizens of the Township of Franklin, do hereby commend Carter Cordray, Boy Scout Troop Number 113, for the honor he has bestowed upon his community. Boy Scout Troop Number 113, family and friends, as a recipient of the Eagle Scout Award. Congratulations. How about if I read the other one, and hopefully you all come up and say a couple words. Come on up, Carter. Okay, and the next one here is commendation. Whereas the Eagle Scout Award is the highest honor which can be attained within the ranks of the Boy Scouts, and whereas Dylan Hutt of Boy Scout Troop Number 113 has attained such award, and whereas Dylan made a bicycle rack and a bird bath for the Marconi Foundation of Franklin Township at the Marconi Plaza on Easton Avenue, so that people who rode their bicycles to the park would have a rack to stand them in, and he also wanted to attract more birds to the park by providing them with a bird bath for them to drink from. Now therefore I, James Vassanella, Councilman of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, on behalf of the entire Township Council and the citizens of the Township of Franklin, do hereby commend Dylan Hutt, Boy Scout Troop Number 113, for the honor he has bestowed upon his community, Boy Scout Troop Number 113, his family and friends, as a recipient of the Eagle Scout Award. And we'll have a moment if you want to get a picture. I just let them say a few words. And I'm just going to say I was a part of scouting in Franklin for most of the 70s, I think. And although I was able to achieve many accomplishments, I think almost everyone except Eagle Scout. And there was not as many, we had great leaders, but there was not as many parents that were able to be just, it seems like we have such a great amount, and I referenced Doug Hutt here, who is not only proud parent, but longtime scout leader, assistant scout leader, serving in different capacities with Troop 113. And that's really what makes it happen. And although the young men have made the achievements and they should be acknowledged, don't anybody forget, scouting would not be what it is today, the positive things that it does all around our community, if it was not for the dedicated parents, both serving in official capacities and unofficial capacities. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the scouts to hopefully say a few words.
Hello. As Councilman Vassanella said, my name is Carter Cudray. I'm from Troop 113, and I had the honor of having my Eagle Court of Honor this past weekend, and it was just great to share that experience with my troop, the group of men that I've come to grow up with these last 7 years of my life. It's whenever somebody undergoes one of these Eagle Scout projects or receives this award or goes through the ranks or even just goes into Boy Scouts in general, it's really a group effort. It's something that, you know, I had the sincere pleasure of sharing with all the boys sitting over here today, and the leaders sitting over here today as well. It's nothing can be done as a Boy Scout or really in general, in this world of ours alone. And I guess the leadership skills and really the interaction relationship skills that Boy Scouts taught me has helped me in all aspects of life. So I guess I will always be grateful for what Troop 113 did for me as a person, as a leader, and as a brother. So that's all I have to say.
Hi. Thank you very much for everything you helped me throughout the years, and I just want to tell you, don't stop, keep on going.
So Jim gave us a nice sitting target. You know that scouting touches everybody. Mayor Levine gave us the nice introduction at the beginning about how we all want to do more for the community, and scouting offers that opportunity for young men to explore those opportunities and to give back in the process. You can see the diversity in these types of projects and how it helps all of our boys grow and improve and helps the community at the same time. So we're grateful for the acknowledgement. We're grateful for our community, and we look forward to continue doing good things here. So thank you very much.
Mayor, if you wanted to say a word, and I guess if they wanted to get a picture, and then we can conclude.
I'm always honored to be invited to the Eagle Scout Courts of Honor. I think I've made most all of them since I've been mayor. A couple times where I've had a conflict, but that's it shows me the goals that were set and attained, and that's one of the best lessons we could learn. And also, great lessons is given by the scout leaders and the parents who provide the good example and the citizenship which the boys follow. It's a great institution, but that does nothing without the people implementing it. So I honor you on behalf of all of our 63,000 residents for the physical good you do, like in your projects, but also the spiritual and citizenship that you instill upon our boys and the examples that they set for the other kids coming up. So thanks for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks much for that. If you, at some point you have to go, feel free, that's okay. We're now at item number 6 on the agenda. That is the mayor's report. So this, my mug today is slightly more unusual than what I usually do. It's a picture of the Beatles, who as of this last weekend, celebrated 50 years having come to America. And I have them not only for the musicians themselves, these 4 gentlemen, but for what it symbolizes to me for our town. We are very big on music and the arts, especially our school system. Very good at that. So keep your eye on our schools and the plays that are there. We certainly have good ones at the Villagers, with Little Shop of Horrors going on there now. And just recently at Samson G. Smith, they just concluded their Wizard of Oz run. And in reference to that, because of all these good things in our town, I'm going to slightly misquote Dorothy and say, there's no place like Franklin. There's no place like Franklin. So generally, our meetings are the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month. Except in July and August and December when it's only the second Tuesday. And we're going to have a few special meetings. I think we're discussing that today, where we're going to go over our budgets and things like that. And all of our meetings are open to the public, and any meeting, the public is invited and encouraged to speak and tell us what's on your minds. So a couple of issues which came up. It's been in the news recently because as we're sitting here today, and you may be watching this at home after this week, but as we're sitting here, we're predicted that we're going to have another snowstorm coming up on the next day. If that materializes, so be it. If it doesn't, then obviously so be it also. As I've been asked by people, no, we are not out of salt for the roads. There is shortages around the East Coast. We're doing what we can. We're stretching it, getting in new shipments when we can. And So we're in pretty good shape. And just budget-wise, these serial snows that come up, they do have a effect on towns' budgets because towns budget so much, but then as you keep sending out your crews and the salt and all your equipment, many times it does cut into money you've budgeted for that. Here in town, we have this fund, so we fund it every year, whether we get snow or not. So in the light years, like last year, it builds up. In the heavier years like now, it draws down. So yes, it's costing us, but we're in better shape than most towns because just frankly budgeted it properly. And also earlier today, which I won't go into, several council members had an education at an educational institution, but I think they'll go into that themselves later. As we sit here also, this Saturday, February 15th, is the fire district elections. So you may go to the firehouses and vote. If you're not sure where and when, you can contact them. Is that on our website? Okay, well, if you call the firehouses or check them, you'll be able to know where that is. Also coming up in the future, we are on track to have our fireworks again, Thursday, July 3rd. Hopefully, as always, no cost to the taxpayers because we raise the money separately. For any other information, especially like these snows and such as that, our website is invaluable in getting out information to everybody. You can also sign up. You'll get alerts on things that are happening. It's a very good system. For some information or for fun, I've got information on my mayor Facebook and Twitter. And also, this time of year, the fire departments, the first aid squads are having their annual installation of installation of officers. And is not here now, but our Deputy Mayor Brian Regan has been very instrumental this year in helping them out. So I want to thank and congratulate all our volunteers, and for everyone, whether you have a particular sweetheart or not, happy Valentine's Day. And that concludes the mayor's report. So now we have the deputy mayor's report. Deputy Mayor Brian Regan isn't here. Did he send anything? Okay. So then we'll go on to public discussion. This is the only time the public can say something about particular ordinance or about anything in general. Later on, I'll talk about, we'll have ordinances which we're going to vote on for final passage. They're going to go into law if they pass. At that point, I'll ask for people to, if they want to speak on those particular ordinances, and those are going to be an easement on Matawang Drive. I'll say about that. Picking up the street lighting on Sterling Point and our Hamilton Street Business District. So that you can speak about those in particular later on. At this point, we're going to go into public discussion, and we're glad to hear anything that's on your mind. As is our policy, everyone can come up once per meeting at the public discussion, and we allocate 5 minutes per person, and there'll be a timer, so when you hear a tone goes off, that means 3 minutes has elapsed, and when you hear multiple tones go off, that means 5 minutes has elapsed. And if you haven't finished, I'm going to ask you to wrap up your thoughts. Please feel free to give us your opinion, ask us questions as you like. Please direct all your comments to the council, and if we can answer it, also direct. And we don't have yielding of time. Everyone can come up and say what's on his or her mind. So we're now at item number 8, public discussion. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. This meeting is open for public discussion on any item of interest. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand. When I recognize you, come to the podium, give us your name and address, please, and please note our videotape is going. And anyone, we're glad to hear what's on your mind. Yes, please, come on up. And when you come up to the podium, like I said, give us your name and address, please. Keep yourself about 3 or 4 inches from the microphone. That way we hear you and our audio picks it up properly also.
Is this good enough?
Close.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, come like 3 inches away.
Good afternoon. My name is Virginia Beecham, and I live at 91 Barry Street here in Somerset. I'm concerned about the Hamilton Street district. I would like to know how that's going to affect me in the area for the redevelopment.
Okay. And you have a residence, not a business there, right?
I'm a resident.
Okay. I'm going to ask our
I can
attorney,
answer.
Mr. Lou Raynon, to...
Won't affect you at all.
It doesn't affect me?
No, you don't pay the SID tax now?
Okay.
You don't pay the special improvement with
No.
the extra
No,
tax?
so that, then you won't, it doesn't affect you at all.
May I ask another question? How
Sure.
are what kind of improvements are going to be done? I know we have a lot of stuff going on Hamilton Street. Is there anything that will affect the Barry Street area?
No, ma'am. It's an improvement district, but
It's
if
only
you're
for Hamilton?
It's only for Hamilton,
Okay,
yes, ma'am.
that's what I needed.
Yes. You're welcome.
All right, thank you much. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir. Come on.
Hello, my name is Peter Ng. I'm associate pastor of the Chinese Christian Church in Somerset, located on 758 Hamilton Street. We have worked well with the HSBCC in the past, and we expect to work well in the future with the new Hamilton Street Advisory Board. One question I do have, what kind of effect will this change affect, like a church or a nonprofit organization?
Okay, Mr. Raynon?
You don't currently pay, there's nothing that's happening tonight that's going to change who pays or doesn't pay to the SID tax. So none of that is changing. It's all staying the way it is. And I'm assuming, Pastor, your property's tax exempt, so you're not paying it now, right?
No, we're not.
And you won't be paying it in the future.
Very good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, and those are good points. The good, many good points. One good point is, it's only we're going to do is change the structure of it. And when we get to that later in the agenda, I'll ask us to reiterate that so you know how that structure's going to change. But, Reverend, thank you very much. Anyone else?
Yes.
Oh, Ms. Saba, and then the gentleman, yes.
Good evening. Manija Saba, 146 Emerson Road. I'm happy to be back after a few months of hiatus, dealing with other things. I have two issues that I wanted to bring to your attention. One is hydraulic fracturing. You know that we have talked with some of you about this on and off, and we just talked with we talked to Mr. Dominic, Senior Zoning Officer. He gave us some information about the zoning laws in Franklin Township, and we asked him to give us some information about the state, and he's going to forward us some information. And that was very helpful, actually. We had good discussion. And any other one, I appreciate if anybody else who has any differing view about this, let us know so we can do our own research study and come back and report to you of our own finding and understanding of the process. Because as you know, we are very concerned about hydraulic fracturing in the whole country, but particularly in where we are, and one of the best counties in this state, which is very environmental. We want to keep it as such. The other concern that I have is drones. Has really concerned me a lot, and it concerning me constantly, and especially not internationally. You know, I'm very concerned about international behavior, and also our international influence, which really these drone policies, unmanned, vehicles policies, and they're attacking other people is affecting our international standing and also reaction of the public to our country, which is very concerning to me. But I would like to ask you, this question I would like to be addressed by all of you, or as many as you can. Has the issue of using drone by the police in Franklin Township been ever raised for any reason at any form? Because we get more information that many police officers, police authorities around the country have started talking and thinking about it and using it for all sorts of uses. Catching, criminals, doing this or that, but we hear more and more drones are becoming more and more sophisticated to the size of a very small, like a bee or something. And I'm really concerned about that. And this is, some of you might know, I live in a glass house. I really live in a glass house. So I'm not somebody with no curtains on it. So I'm not concerned about that particular. I'm not a paranoid person who thinks everybody or my neighbors are looking into my house, but I'm concerned about our constitutional protection in this country. And this is very important to me. And this is maybe the most important things around the world. And I've traveled a lot around the world, and especially to one of the more repressive countries of this world. And this issue of freedom in this country, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, all of that is so important to educate others and talk about them and tell them that how fortunate we have to have this. Therefore, I'm very concerned about it, and I would like to know, has been any discussion, any of you first know about drones, use of drones in the country as a whole, or if there has been any discussion of use of drone in our area for any reason or any forms whatsoever. We know that drones are all over the skies running, and that's NSA. And I don't know if you know about that too, and let us know. And I would be coming back on this issue regularly and talk to you about it, and I would like to see you talk about it too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir? You want?
Hi, how are you? My name is John Park. My family owns a shopping center on Hamilton Street, Nora Shopping Center, and I'm here because I know that there's been some development in terms of Hamilton District revitalization, and that some of the members of the council are trying to sort of plan a different direction. When I actually attended this meeting back in June, and I also spoke here, my impression of the council was that, that for the most part, most members were happy with the direction of Hamilton District, Hamilton Street Business District, and what the board is trying to do. So I'm kind of puzzled by why there's a sudden interest, or why there's certain members want to change the direction or change the course of what we're trying to achieve here. And also, I know that there's probably going to be a advisory committee or board that will be created, and who will be selected, or how the selection criteria would work, and what exactly is the goal, because I thought what the board were trying to do, and what Mike Pappas, what he was trying to do, along with the business owners and the property owners, were I thought we were moving in the right direction. So I'm kind of puzzled by this sudden development. So if you have, or any of the members actually have any opinions, or who know something about this, I would like to hear from them. Thank you.
Okay. When on item 15C on the agenda, that's where we're going to be voting on it. That's where we'll go into more details, but we can probably just give you an overview. So do you want to and then we can go into details afterwards?
Well, certainly just from a technical point of view, I'm not certain that there's been any determination from a technical point of view as to changing, quote unquote, changing the direction of whatever has initiatives have been started at Hamilton Street, and certainly that's not a question for the town's lawyer, it's really a question for the policymakers. This is a circumstance where the council is stepping in because there was there'd become a problem with the current district management corporation and the term and the manner in which it was legally constituted. And because there are public dollars involved, the council needs to step in and kind of correct that situation. So that really is part of the technical part of it, and like I said, I really can't comment on whether or not it's going to change the direction, other than the fact that the last time that the Business Management Corporation was here, Mr. Pappas was here, there was a great deal of discussion about undertaking planning studies, for instance, in the Hamilton Street Business District. And I think that it became a sense of the council and at least the staff and then the council as we began to discuss it, is that a lot of the undertakings were things that were within kind of the core responsibility and expertise of the township staff, and that there had to be a way that we could kind of assimilate the two so that we could achieve those short-term goals, planning studies, zoning, rezoning issues that were really in the township's, wheelhouse, if I can use a phrase. So when this technical issue came up, the council then began to put together there was a council committee. They spent a number of months looking at all of the various options, and they determined that this restructuring is necessary to kind of, I don't want to say reboot, but I guess reboot the business district. Doesn't necessarily change the core principles or the goals or the objectives of it, but it certainly puts the structure in place that can get the township's expertise available to the district and keep the property owners involved through the advisory committee, and then ultimately chart, what everybody hopes will be a new and successful course for the business district. So that's kind of just my summary of it, and I hope it answered your questions.
I'll come in just briefly also. When we're restructuring, just from my perspective, that's not casting aspersions on anyone who's ever been on the board, or certainly Mr. Pappas. Personally, I think he did a good job, and I respect him extremely highly. And it just technically, the board, wasn't constituted like it should be legally, and I'll take that upon us and me. If we're the council, the buck stops here, and maybe I should have known about that before. So just restructuring. The goals will be the same. To me, is bring more business to Hamilton Street. That's the basic bottom line. And anyone who was on the board before could be on the board again. And one of the technical changes is the council will have a final vote on how the money is spent, but I suspect the council is going to follow the recommendation of the Hamilton Street, this new entity we create. And again, when we get there, I'll give you more details. But that's the bottom line. The mission shouldn't change at all, and the players, at least the ones from Hamilton Street, could very well be the same people also. And the meetings are open to the public, so anyone can be there and give their opinions also. Anyone, and again, when we get to that 14C, we'll have more details and discussion. Anyone else from the public? Yes, sir. Yeah, good. Come on. Yeah, please.
My name is James Savage.
Keep yourself up about 3 inches.
Put this near me.
Mr. Savage, thanks.
Okay, my name is James Savage, and I represent Ram Pest Control. Okay? I've been receiving communication from you, letters, okay, telling me that I'm a member of the Hamilton Street Association. My property is located on Frank Street. Okay? You have recently started to levy tax against me. You've had your Hamilton Street Association, to the best of my knowledge, about 3 or 4 years. Am I wrong?
10 years.
10 years. Right. Initially, you didn't say a thing to me when the place was a shack. I've gone through all kind of endeavors to make it worth something and worthwhile. But now you've decided to levy a tax on me. And I never asked to be a member of the Hamilton Street Association. I never made any inquiries because I knew the Hamilton Street Association, I thought, would apply to those who have physical structures, businesses on Hamilton Street. Okay? So that is my my view of things. I was never really approached about it. It was just done, and now you're sending me bills, your tax, your whatever you want to call it. And I don't see how I fit into that. There's no one else on my street, okay, that's a part of the Hamilton Street Associations. So,
Mr. Savage, can I just interject here for a second?
I'm going to ask our manager, Mr. Vornlocker, to...
Did you receive it, when you say you received a tax bill, when?
I received the tax bill about 3 months now, 3 months ago.
You received the Special Improvement District tax bill? Or you received your tax bill for your property?
No, I received your special improvement.
Or did you receive a letter in reference to
There's a
special
letter in
improvement?
it, and along with the bill.
Well, what I'd ask is if, do you have it with you?
No, I don't have it.
Okay. I know where your business is. It's where your business has been for a very, very long time, and you're not in the Special Improvement District. I'm not quite sure if you received something that you obviously should not have. You're not part of the Hamilton Street Special Improvement District.
No, but
No, and my question is what you received, and I just need to see what you received. And if, in fact, you're in it or you're on the list, I need to find out why. So I'm not going to, you know. I'm sure that our clerk right now is looking at the Special Improvement District list of block and lot.
It's in the list, the address is in.
The address
is in the list, 97 Frank Street, correct?
He's in the district.
That's correct.
And has he always been in the district?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you've been receiving this, the Special Improvement District has been in existence for 10 years, and our clerk is telling us that you've been in that.
I haven't been receiving any kind of literature in the last 10. Only recently.
Well, I don't mean literature, I'm talking about a bill. There's two different things. I mean, there's been a number of letters that have gone out to members of the SID recently regarding this upcoming ordinance hearing that's going to take place later in the meeting. My question to you is, have you received a SID bill for a Special Improvement District tax that's been levied upon all members of the SID for about 10 years now?
No, this has just started with me. The last, I would say the last 6 months.
No. No, as I said before, we have not changed the list of properties who were in the SID, and actually none of the discussion and none of the amendments to the ordinance have anything to do with the list of properties that were in the SID.
Right.
And we could certainly find out.
Yeah, I mean,
And, because we can pull your tax history pretty quick and tell you whether or not, I suspect you've probably been paying it, but I suspect that you just recently started to get letters from it, and that's because the township has been sending letters to people who are in the SID.
Mr. Savage, take my card, and why don't you give me a call in the morning, and we can see what we can get accomplished through the tax collector's office and through the clerk's office with the SID roll. Okay?
Here's Hamilton Street.
That's fine. I'll be in at 8:30, so,
But
absolutely.
Franklin Boulevard, these streets are in Davis, is it?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that. And as was kind of mentioned in the last couple weeks, last month or two, we've been much more proactive as a town in contacting all the businesses to let you know what's happening too. Anyone else? Mr. Gianotto?
Will we have time to speak later on?
Yes. You'll speak at the ordinance, okay. Anyone else would like to speak of anything?
Seeing no one come forward, Mayor, motion the public portion of the meeting to close.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Thank you. We're now at item number 9, which is standing committee reports. And the first we have is Administration Committee. Anyone want to do that?
So,
The Councilwoman Sherman?
yes, Councilwoman Francois is not here yet, so I'll step in. And we basically talked about, reviewed our billing on litigation just to understand what we've been spending our money on, and it's good fiscal housekeeping to make sure that we're within our budget. And then we talked about some of the process for court personnel, and we're probably going to make it a little more structured than it had been before, judges and prosecutors, and make sure we have the information that we need in a timely manner. And it was not a very long meeting. There were some personnel issues, which I really, we can't discuss, and that took up most of the time. But those were the main issues of the admin meeting.
Okay, thank you. And Financial Oversight?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Councilman Kramer?
The chief of police came to ask about a position. There was a position of a person who handled gun permits that was full-time, and he had come up with a way and a request to make it half-time, so we certainly approved that. If council will remember, we had an ordinance discussing changing our health care ordinance, that the idea was that anyone hired now would not get health care when they retired, not get free health, or not get health care through the township. We tabled that, and Financial Oversight discussed it. The chief of police weighed in on that because he felt it would affect his ability to hire. And he brought us a table which showed every neighboring town, every town in which Franklin borders, except Princeton. All of them do give health care at retirement, and we actually had the lowest starting salary of all of them. So he was concerned that this would affect his recruitment. Right now, we get the top from the academies, and he doesn't want that to slip. It was the recommendation of the Financial Oversight Committee that we no longer consider this change to our ordinance. We then, so a few years ago, I had come up with the idea of having the financial advisor commit to a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, a prediction of where the township's finances were going, so that we could plan what we needed to do with taxes, what we could do with spending. We went over the predictions that it showed. We had a number of questions about it. Councilman Regan and I sat down with the financial advisor, Mr. Hodgelick, and made some tweaks to that. We're going to go over that again at the next financial oversight meeting, and then once we're done with that, I'd be happy to present what the model predicts. We then discussed the budget, the schedule for going over the budget for the financial oversight meeting, and we reviewed the audit, which I think we mentioned in open session here last week, so I don't need to review that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And Public Safety? Councilman Vasanella?
Yes, we had a meeting today, just go over a couple of topics, and we will be having another meeting next month. And we're not going to get into all the details tonight because we'll be rolling it out in short time here. But there were some questions and concerns about the registration of fire alarms. And without going into a lot of detail, everyone who has a fire alarm, burglar alarm, and goes through the central monitoring with our police station, needs to have them registered, and there's been some confusion as to that, and we're reviewing the policy, and we're coming back with some ideas, both to broadcast, both to make people aware of of what you have to do, and it's really for your own safety, which helps our police department be able to respond and inform you when there is a situation. And we'll be bringing more information on that in the future, so that everybody's aware of it and make it easier for people to register. We also are going to be looking to a few signs in specific locations to help perhaps curb a little bit of the, occasionally we have vehicles, overweight vehicles, large commercial vehicles parked overnight, and without going into all the details of the ordinance, it's prohibited, certain weight is prohibited to be parked overnight, and we'd rather have it not be there. We're not looking to get the fines, the revenue from it being there. We'd rather opt for safety, so we're just going to try to make it known a little bit more in certain key areas around town to alleviate that situation. And there's more issues we'll be addressing next month, and we'll give a follow-up as to how, more details of how we're approaching these two situations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Land use, open space, parks, and recreation. Councilman Chase?
Land use didn't meet last month because of one of the many snowstorms.
Okay, thank you. Public Works?
Public Works is scheduled to meet this Friday.
Councilman Chase also. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we come to item number 10 on the agenda, council comments. So I guess we'll start over here. Councilman Wright?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of comments. Earlier today, Councilman Vasanella, Councilwoman Sherman, the mayor, and myself, we went to...
And me.
Oh, Councilman Chase, the Thomas Edison Energy Smart School, charter school here in Franklin Township, and they gave me one of these. And it was a thank you for coming to their program today, in which we talked about their school. They informed us about what was going on and how that school was, being very productive here. They have 250 plus children in the school, and it was very enlightening. Now, I'm more than sure as we go down the row here, everyone will have something to say, so I'm going to save little pieces for everyone as we go down the row. The senior housing, we have a meeting tomorrow, and along with the rec council meeting, everything is on the 12th, so I'll be running between both meetings. And we have a redevelopment meeting on the 24th here in this building. So I would advise you, if you want to come out and see what's going on in Franklin Township, please, by all means, come out. And that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Phil Kramer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, as everyone knows, we had a lot of snow, and the township offices were closed a couple of days. I've discussed this with the manager, who seems to have run away, maybe because he doesn't want to hear about this, but it's my understanding that because those snow days, when the offices were closed, were during the time that taxes were due, from the 1st through the 10th, I've asked him if we can extend the time without late penalties, basically till tomorrow. So normally you have till the 10th to get your taxes in. We missed 2 days, so that would give us to the 12th. Today is the 11th, so that would give us to the 12th. He felt we could do that. I feel ill at ease saying that without him here. Perhaps we'll bring it up when it comes up again. Fracking came up, and it was interesting. When I first started, I must have gotten at least a dozen emails about fracking. They were kind of echoed through Food and Water Watch, and a number of people did contact us about it. And at first I considered this a very complicated subject, because I would have to learn, and what they were asking for was an ordinance to stop fracking in Franklin. And at first I considered it very complicated, because I would have to learn all about fracking, and then there's the energy needs of the country, et cetera, and how that would impact. But I then realized the real question was fracking in Franklin. And that is a much easier question, regardless of our energy needs and the safety of fracking, et cetera. I don't think we want it here in Franklin. If it's going to be in Pennsylvania, that's fine. Currently, there's that's for Pennsylvania to figure out, or for our state, for our Senate or Congress to figure out, not for me as a councilman. First, there's also the problem that the EPA right now is doing a study to find out about fracking and its hazards. And currently, there's a loophole in the fracking laws about that they are exempt from the clean air and clean water provisions of other mining, drilling operations. So those are of concern to me, and my thought is we would not want fracking here in Franklin. I then had numerous email and voice discussions with Mr. Dominic, our zoning officer, with knowledge of our manager. He was CC'd on these. And a conversation with Mr. Ranone briefly on it tonight. And Mr. Dominic is of the opinion that because of the way New Jersey law is set up, in our zoning ordinance, we say these are the things that are permitted in town, and fracking is not listed. Therefore, it is his feeling that fracking is not permitted in town. It's Mr. Ranone's feeling that, well, maybe I shouldn't put words, Mr. Ranone has other thoughts on that, and I won't put words in his mouth, but perhaps Mr. Dominic and Mr. Ranone can get together on that. Maybe Mr. Ranone will want to speak when I'm done on fracking, but I certainly want the town protected. I don't want an ordinance that would actually put us in danger, because if we say, Mr. Dominic's concern is if we say no fracking in town, but we don't say no uranium mining in town, then someone could come in, or something else we don't think of, someone could come in and do that. So I will let these two brilliant minds get together and figure out what the right thing to do is on that. Something I'll mention briefly is a program called Shop Franklin. If it's in Marlboro, it's called Shop Marlboro, and it's a very basic, or basically it's an idea where if someone went to a local vendor, then they could get some discount, maybe that's not the right words, but some credit on their property tax. This would be at no cost to the town. There's a lot to explain about that, a lot to look into, but Mr. Wright, myself, Ms. Sherman, and Mr. Chase had a little impromptu group meeting on it. Mr. Prasad was invited before I invited Mr. Chase, but we didn't want to have a quorum there. He was unable to come, so Mr. Chase came, and we had discussions. We had many questions on it, and we're going to look into that more. Fortunately, Mr. Ranone was the person who wrote the law on this, because the first place to have it in the country or in the state?
Free world.
Free world was in Marlboro, and he wrote the law on it. So we're very lucky that we have him to bounce this off of and figure out what the right thing is. But I just wanted to mention that briefly. Hopefully we'll hear more about that in the future. Any energy aggregation. At another meeting that I attended, that was also attended by, happened to be attended by Mr. Wright, Mr. Chase, Mr. Vasanella, and Ms. Sherman, where there was a large group, and we were all there, was on energy aggregation. This is a concept where the town, the municipal body gets together and essentially, my words won't be precise, brokers a deal on behalf of the citizens of the town with an energy producer so that we get a cut rate. All the citizens in town will get a cut rate. This would mean, has meant in the past to other towns, about a 15% reduction in the energy portion of your electric bill. This also might go to natural gas. Remember, on your electric bill, there is an energy portion and a transmission portion. This would only be on the energy portion. Nevertheless, it is a way to save money. We are now going to discuss this we've discussed it in the past here. We're trying to get the state ombudsman here to speak to us to learn more. We're going to discuss it this Friday at our Public Works meeting, and I'm hoping we can move that, start getting that on the fast track to get that through. After this last meeting, I just can see no negatives on it as long as you're careful and do it the right way. I mentioned the snow and the snow plowing. A lot went on with the snow plowing this past couple of weeks. When we had the snow during the week, I got up at about 4:15, and I got to the Public Works building at about 5:15 because I wanted to shake all our plowers' hands and wish them luck and thank them for going out there, and I'd missed them because they were already up before me, and they were out getting ready to plow. There were a few hired contractors there, and I thanked them, and then I went in and sat with the people running it and watched what was going on, asked a few questions. So you may have heard we ran out of salt. So did the rest of the Northeast. It was quite a problem. We didn't quite run out of it with some clever planning. They mixed what we had with some sand and spread it out. Just some facts to know. We have one salt dome in town. It holds 700 tons of salt. One complete salting of the town is 450 tons. Each truck holds about 10 tons, so that's 45 truckloads getting out there, and it's an enormous task to get them out there. There's been a plan in the past of, do we need more salt domes? I certainly don't want to jump just because of this one incident, but it's something that we'll also discuss at Public Works, just to toss it around, or at least be more knowledgeable about it. But we're not eager to spend money that we don't have to. And then the last item I'll discuss is Bike Without Fear. That's what we called it last time. I think this year we're calling it Canal Walk, Hike and Bike. And the Trails Committee has kind of taken this over. And the dates will be May 18th with an alternate day on June 8th, and September 7th with an alternate day on September 14th. So this will be shutting down Canal Road to all but local traffic from basically East Millstone, Elm Street, down to Butler Road on a Sunday from 10 in the morning till about 4 in the afternoon. And unless, I personally knocked on the doors of all but 2 houses in the section between Elm and Sedan Road, or left flyers or talked to people there. And also on Miller Road, well, no, it's about 20 houses when you include Miller Road. And there were no objections. So unless there are any objections from council, I'd like to ask the manager to get that advertising in, at least for the May 18th one, into the Franklin Times, with the deadline for that is March 1st. So I've accomplished that. And while you were gone, I mentioned
And that's why I came down to remind you, because you said the last thing you had to speak about was that, so I knew you wanted to speak about something else.
I put it first because I noticed you weren't here.
But I had something to do, so now I'm back.
So that was what we're talking about, is extending the late payment time for...
Yes, based on the number of days that the municipal building was closed, the grace period for tax bills will be extended by that number of days. And by my recollection, at this particular point, although this winter is somewhat of a blur, I believe that it's been 2 days that the municipal building was closed, so therefore the grace period will be extended by 2 days.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Ted Chase.
As Councilman Wright said, at least when I reminded him, I was among a number of council people who visited the Thomas Edison Smart Energy Charter School on Cortelyou Lane today. And they had a program. They actually had an FBI agent who was the head of one of the regional offices in to speak to the children there. But we were able to see a good deal of what goes on in the classrooms there, and we were very impressed at the level of education there. In the fourth grade, they were with little kits and a battery that would run a motor. They were determining what was an insulator and what was a conductor by direct experimentation. They use a lot of technology there, so it's a very encouraging school. And I might say, although they apparently were unaware of this, they had scheduled this on Thomas Edison's birthday. So I was very impressed by that. On fracking, as Councilman Kramer has said, on the one hand, I would think probably it would not be permitted in the township except possibly in the M3 zone where mining is permitted, which is the Trap Rock Quarry. And if you try to drill in the Trap Rock Quarry, it's very hard drilling, and it's trap rock all the way down, so I don't think they would find any natural gas there. Except in the M3 zone, fracking any type of mining or drilling would not be a permitted use. On the other hand, I would like to ask Mr. Raynon whether we actually would be able to ban fracking within the township, because there's a principle that the municipalities can only do what the legislature has specifically authorized them to do. In any case, I don't think it's very likely that fracking would occur in this township. I think that Food and Water Watch is whipping up concern about this to give itself some publicity. I am very concerned about fracking, even fracking in Pennsylvania, because if you think about it, if fracking in Pennsylvania leads to the fracking water waste containing all sorts of chemicals which they are not required to report to the EPA, if this leaks into the Lehigh River and then into the Delaware River, and then the DNR Canal draws its water from the Delaware River, and the city of New Brunswick draws water from the DNR Canal, and we buy water from the city of New Brunswick, so at least in a very diluted form, we could wind up drinking that fracking waste. All of which is to illustrate that this is really a national problem. In this case, it's an interstate problem. The state of Pennsylvania has been very, very pro-fracking. In this state, the legislature passed bills to outlaw fracking in New Jersey, but the governor vetoed them. So I would suggest it's probably more important to keep up pressure on the legislature and the governor to ban fracking in the state, and on Congress to remove this exemption from the Clean Water Act that the fracking has. So that's what I think is the most important aspects there. Staying closer to home, something I've asked to put into the township newsletter is calling for volunteers for a community gardening committee, which is largely to share information between our existing community gardens, and this could be not only the gardens on public property on Naaman Williams Park and at Pine Grove Manor School, but also I know there's one at the Lutheran Church on Amwell Road, and I would hope that we can set up more community gardens, and this committee, I think, could help set up more community gardens. So I'm asking people who were interested in serving on such a committee, they can contact me about this at my township email or my home phone, which is 609-924-4206. Earlier, we'd thought of asking for this names to come in to Joyce Miller, the township purchasing agent and manager of the newsletter, but nothing ever came of that. So it's time to start, although it doesn't look like it outside, it's time to start thinking about gardening for next year. And this committee could get information from Rutgers Cooperative Extension about gardening, for instance. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Rajiv Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think on the snow removal, the deputy mayor wrote a response email that spelled out the problems that we had encountered and how the manager has done a good job of securing alternate sources of salt. And so we're doing the best we can on that. As far as fracking is concerned, I think I sponsored a resolution that we sent to the state saying that this town was against it and that it shouldn't happen in New Jersey. So we've done that and whatever else we can do, but Franklin cannot do much overall, but we are concerned about the Delaware water and how it impacts upon us. On a brighter note, happy Valentine's Day to everybody. And stay safe with the snow and ice. And on a personal note, I won't be here at the next meeting. I have some elective surgery that's scheduled. And so hopefully that'll alleviate some of my problems. So thank you. And
Okay, thank you. Councilman James Vassanella.
Thank you, Mayor. A handful of items, they're mostly pretty quick. I was also at the charter school celebration today, and it was actually, I think, the director of New Jersey's FBI office did a wonderful presentation, and a couple of people from his staff, and I was actually surprised to see such a high-ranking member of our FBI there. It was definitely that, and the whole presentation is just absolutely wonderful, and I believe that they are in a leased space at the Oak Crest School, or, summer camp, and although they don't have a permanent home, and I believe are looking for one, it's just absolutely amazing what they have done, the environment, the learning that they have helped create, and there was thousands of applications for a lottery for just, I forget the exact amount, but with slim chances of getting picked, but it didn't deter the parents to submit, and the ones that were there seemed absolutely so happy and appreciative for that charter school's existence, not to take anything away from our wonderful public schools, but it definitely impressed myself and the other council people I was with, I believe. We did pass a resolution on fracking. I don't know exactly when it was, but I know that was something that was brought from 2 years ago from Ms. Saba and others in the audience that were interested in this subject, and we did what we could do relevant to that, and that was basically telling the legislature what we'd like to see happen. From what I understand, it sounds like right now we're going to, as mentioned by Councilman Kramer, for further report or information from Mr. Rayno and Mr. Dominic, and if there's something else we could do, I believe there'd be the support to do it. We'll see what comes of that. Snow removal, the only thing I'll mention, because it was brought to my attention by a couple of individuals, was there were some mailboxes that were run down, obviously unintentionally, and when I'm done, I'm going to ask the manager to just comment, because the town will, quote, make good on that. It is an unfortunate, unavoidable occurrence that happens occasionally, and it probably happened more often with this past round, because we have been, as you all know, slammed with storm, ice, salt, and as terrible as it is, if they're in the process of clearing the streets, making them safer, small price to pay, but I do want the people to be properly handled or compensated, and the manager maybe could fill you in a moment on how that happens, which I believe is very simple. A quick event I want to mention, not sure what they're calling it, but basically they're getting the state authority on bees to come to Franklin, the Environmental Commission. I believe it's March 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day. The state of Paris, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it, apiarist, which is a fancy word for the state beekeeper, for lack of a better term. And come out, see this. It's not just about bees, what you might think. Bees and your food systems and farming and agriculture is so tied in ways that I just learned about over the last couple of years that I had never realized. And although I believe she moved out of town, there was a woman here who was very involved in beekeeping, who also informed me of a lot of things I did not know about. So please consider attending that. Again, I just want to acknowledge the Boy Scouts. So over the years, some people have had some questions and concerns. Boy Scouts is not a perfect organization, but in my personal opinion, I think they're a wonderful organization, and whatever issues they're dealing with, hopefully will be rectified, because the amount that they do for this country and specifically for this town, in my personal opinion, is just astronomical in building character and leadership in our young boys and young men in town. Cable TV meeting was canceled. We're very close, the committee, to making a recommendation for the last and final member of that committee, so that won't come until next month because of the meeting being canceled on one of those nights that the Township was closed down. Did attend an Office of Emergency Management meeting. Councilman Reagan and myself were the representatives. Without going over detail, one of the main aspects of the meeting, which led to another meeting directly after that with the same participants, is they'll be doing a drill, a massive drill. I think that the focus, the theme would be on water rescue, what we're doing in the canal. We'll keep citizens informed as to when that will take place, and a little bit about it. It's mainly for the emergency responders to sharpen their skills, but just to let you know, we are surrounded. 3/4 of our town is surrounded, bordered by water. And I know growing up, and unfortunately a few times since, we have lost wonderful members of our community to drownings in our waterways, mainly the canal. So I'm glad and appreciative that that committee is focused on that. A couple other things real quick. I'm also going to, I didn't mention it to the manager, I apologize, but a lot of people have been asking me about the updates on the bridge that was wiped out in the hurricane over a year ago, and I believe we are close to having it replaced, but again, I'm going to ask the manager if he could just fill us in on that. And I think there was one other item. Oh, the drones. Well, without going into a big issue about drones, I will say this. And let me start out by saying there are many things that our governor has done that I do like and appreciate. One thing, unfortunately, that I don't is a veto of a bipartisan bill that was sent to his desk. And I could be wrong, but I believe it was large bipartisan support, which specifically mandated that before, I believe, any branch of law enforcement can utilize a drone, and even other entities, agencies, state, local, they would have to obtain a search warrant, or a warrant, I should say, not a search warrant, warrant from a judge, whatever the technical warrant, way they described a warrant. In other words, show good cause, unless it was an imminent danger, emergency situation, which legitimately there was not time for. So as much as I like the idea that we have the ability to use these drones for real need for investigation, I personally can't understand why the governor, with the large bipartisan support, did not sign that order, that bill. If I'm reading it correctly, that would have at least added some checks and balances, perhaps not as much as some of us would like, but at least it would have helped. That's my personal opinion. On a local level, without endangering any of our tactical or strategical approaches to drone use, I would like clarity on If the manager and police chief feel it's appropriate, I would hope so, to let the town know whatever they can about the use of Franklin, because quite honestly, I do not know how, I've been following it on a state and a national level. I'm not aware of what we do locally, and I'm sure there's some things we may not be able to tell the public, but I'm going to ask that whatever can be told is told, and then, like I said, I had bipartisan support in Trenton, but did not get signed, is my knowledge. But it is an issue I suggest everybody keep aware of, because there are pros and cons. There was some commentary, we don't want to get back and forth with the audience, but there is a lot going on in New Jersey, and again, some use is good, in my opinion, some isn't, and hopefully we'll find a balance there. That's it, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Rosalind Sherman.
Thank you. Fracking is, to me, a very vital issue and a very important issue for our country, for our state, and for our community. I personally have joined Food and Water Watch because I feel they're in the forefront of keeping people informed. Pardon me. There is a movie called Gasland Part 2 that's going to be shown on Sunday, March 23rd at 1:15 p.m. at the Public Library here on DeMont Lane. I think anyone who comes to see that will be find it a very sobering movie and something that we all should be concerned about. I just want to make sure I understand what I think I heard, and that is the resolution we passed was a state-level resolution. It was not for Franklin. We don't need to pass one for Franklin because there is no drilling allowed in this area. Is that a correct interpretation? I asked our attorney just to except the M3 zone, which was a trap rock, and the rock is too hard to drill, from what I'm told. So there's no reason for us to have to say it specifically.
Vince and I haven't had a chance to talk about it, but I understand his rationale. I don't think that there is.
Okay. I just want the public to recognize that we're taking it seriously.
Sure.
And we're not just saying, oh, we don't have to do it. It's going to protect us.
Correct. And the other part about it is this, is that understand that there are, especially in the energy area, and I don't want to throw a wet blanket on things, just because we decide that we're going to outlaw something in Franklin doesn't necessarily mean that the state legislature can't step in, or the federal government, and determine that it's not within our authority to do that. So the answer is are we protected here today? You have your zoning officer telling you that if somebody came in and said, I wanted to do this, he would tell them it's not a permitted use. So, I mean, that's pretty convincing evidence to me.
Okay. I just want everybody who is here and listening and watching to recognize that we're doing the right things. Thank you. Thank you. So I hope you'll go see the movie. There are some flyers out on the desk by the clerk's office if you want to pick it up and put it on your calendar. Also want to talk about the fact that many of us do get emails. I've gotten them from Food and Water Watch. I've gotten them from the World Wildlife Association talking about the energy aggregation. And we take these notices or this input from our community seriously. We have spoken about fracking very seriously tonight, and we are going to look into the energy aggregation. So we are very responsive to what it is that you bring to our attention. On the note that Councilman Vasanella discussed, which is the alarms that was discussed at today's public safety meeting. The information about what to do to find out if your alarm is registered or not will be on our website in the next few days. So you can look it over and you'll have the information on how to reach out to the person who will tell you whether your alarm is registered or not. And if it isn't, then the form to register is on our website, so you can download it. Those instructions will be made available to you. So we'll also put an article in our township newsletter, which goes to everybody. This way, all people will know that you must register your alarm, and the reason for that is that when an alarm goes off, unless we have a registration, again, there we go, sorry. Unless it is registered with a contact name, should your alarm go off, our police don't know who to reach out to. And then it becomes a very big issue. God forbid there's really an issue going on in your home, there's no name, there's no one that they can find. So it's very important for our public safety that you register your alarms. So you will get that information. The way the law works, if you get a notice to register and you don't do it in 20 days, then you can get a summons, and then you have to appear in court. And that can get costly. So the smart thing is register your alarms up front. Talk a little bit about, Councilman Wright mentioned, I think, July 4th, was it? July 3rd. Yeah, I'm working with the Committee on Entertainment, so if you have any thoughts as to what you'd like to see at that event, you can certainly email me, and I'll be happy to take your thoughts into consideration. One other thing before I get to my favorite subject, which is the Cultural Arts Council. I was at a meeting not that long ago, and I thought I'd like to share a statistic. The Township of Franklin issued 4,300 permits in 2013. We had the highest amount of permits issued in the state. And bravo for us. Bravo for all the hardworking people in our construction code department to issue all of those permits. And it says a lot of good things about Franklin Township. Cultural Arts Council. I met with the director of IT, Justin Heyman, who is very, very gracious and helpful. We are going to, in the next month or so, have a spot on the beautiful new township website for the Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council, where you can stay in touch with what we're doing, our newsletter, you can get to our website, our Facebook page. It's going to take us a little while to put it all together, but if you're one of the only 2,000 people who get those notices, you may miss something. So I suggest you sign up to get the notices, because I won't assume you'll visit the website just to see what's going on with Franklin Township Cultural Arts. So sign up and get all the notices of what's going on. That will keep you aware of what we're doing. And just a reminder again, on May 18th, we have the Colonial Park area where they have the enclosed area by the Children's Park for our music festival. Anyone interested in volunteering to help to make this a wonderful event that will be done every year, the Franklin Township Music Festival should be a great event, and if you are interested in performing, you can reach out to us. Our website, or I'm sorry, our email address is franklincac@gmail.com, and I'll keep you posted as things start moving along. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vornlocker, anything you want to add to us, our
Sure,
manager?
I guess I have some questions to answer from Councilman Vasanella. As far as mailboxes are concerned, if your mailbox was knocked down by a snow plow, you need to contact the Public Works Department, and the Public Works Department will provide a new mailbox. It's as simple as that. As Mr. Vasanella said, it is a simple process. You just simply need to contact us and let us know that your mailbox got knocked down. If you live on a county road, you need to contact Somerset County, though. Only if you live on a Franklin Township road, not on a state highway or on a county road, will we replace it. They're responsible for those roads. So that's our mailboxes. I believe you asked a question about the access bridge. The access bridge at the Meadows property at the end of DeMont Lane. Obviously, we don't replace bridges in the current weather conditions that we've been experiencing, but come spring thaw, I would imagine that a one-piece bridge will be in place. It's scheduled to be installed once weather permits. So that's just a matter of getting this snow off the ground, which I think is where I'll sum this up. The Public Works Department has been working diligently to keep our roads clear. It is a monumental task, especially when you factor in the fact that we have had a minimal supply of salt from our suppliers since Christmas. And I think that they've done a fantastic job. It has not been easy. As Councilman Kramer said, I was actually at the Public Works Garage at 4:30, so I topped you here. Doesn't happen very often, but I was up earlier. And what I will say is that even I didn't get to see our Public Works employees go out in the plow trucks, so they were out before me. It is not easy for us to deal with these storms without the materials that we need to keep our roads, clear of the ice and snow. What we are doing right now is we've gone back to the old days and we've purchased a significant amount of sand. We're mixing that sand with the salt that we do have. We received a 50-ton delivery yesterday. I spoke with the Somerset County engineer this afternoon. He informed me that the state supplier has given all of the counties that are supplied by them 1,000 tons, which sounds like a lot. 500 tons has gone to Somerset County. The other 500 tons has been divided up among all the municipalities in Somerset County on an as-needed basis. That is why we received 50 tons. As Councilman Kramer said, we need 450 tons of salt, not sand-salt combination, but 450 tons of salt to properly treat all of our municipal roads in Franklin Township, and we currently have on hand about 250 tons. So this storm is putting us in I heard that we're doing okay. Well, I would beg to differ. We are at a very, very, very critical position right now as far as our road conditions are concerned. And unfortunately, I am staring right now at the Somerset County local forecast for tomorrow night into Thursday, and not to be an alarmist, speaking of alarms, we anticipate 6 to 12 inches of snow beginning sometime around midnight tomorrow night and continuing through the morning rush hour and ending sometime Thursday evening. I ask all of the residents of Franklin to please be patient. Please don't travel in those conditions if you don't have to. And please be understanding if there's a white snow cap on your road after our snowplows go through. We will use that salt sparingly, and we will concentrate on the routes that are most heavily traveled. If you live on a cul-de-sac or a tertiary road, please understand that it may not see salt immediately following this storm. We have to make sure that we make it as safe as we can on the major traveled roads. So that's what I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Wright?
I would like to bring number 15. Oh, you haven't done yours. Go right ahead. I'm sorry.
And then I'll jump right to you. Oh, then I'll jump right to you. Okay. Just for my comments, at the Edison Energy Smart Charter School, many of us there, great visit. Our deputy police chief, our sheriff, in addition to the director of the FBI for the state of New Jersey, was there. He was actually very impressive, very good speaker with the kids also. And just because it's been brought up to me slightly again, there was big controversy on billboards floating around here. The billboard which was discussed is, and I didn't know it was going up, I happened to pass by and see it on Route 287, but just so you know, that billboard frankly was kind of out of the controversy. That's a non-digital billboard that was going up no matter what. The controversy was it digital or static, so to speak, static being the old-fashioned paper kind. So that's one of those. It's up now. So there's some kind of announcement regarding the Sheriff's Department. And I won't go into anything else with that one for now, except for one other comment, as I said before. Have a happy Valentine's Day. That goes for your sweetheart, your children, your parents, your community, your good friends, the people who help you and you help. And that concludes item number 10, council comments. Now, Councilman Wright, did you,
Actually, if I could have just 15 seconds.
Sure.
I misspoke when I said I don't care about fracking in Pennsylvania. What I meant to say is I have no jurisdiction there, so I don't have to think about that as a councilman. That's all I meant. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
go ahead.
I would like to move number 15C, the public hearing and adoption on ordinance for the second reading.
Yes.
And this will be the ordinance for the Hamilton Street Business Corporation, community ordinance. I would like to move that to underneath number 11.
Okay.
Because Ms. Mitchell will come with the community block grant, and right after that public hearing, if I could move 15C, because I think a lot of people are here for that, that would work.
Okay, thank you. So the motion is to amend the agenda to move item 15C regarding the second vote on Hamilton Street. And Councilman Wright saying, in deference to people who are here and want to hear it, let's move it up closer. And that'll be right after our next item, which is Community Development Block Grant.
I'll second that. No.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Okay, so item number 15C will come right after item number 11, our 2014 CDBG Community Development Block Grant Program. Two pieces, introduction of CDBG by our administrator, Ms. Deborah Mitchell, and then we'll have our 2014 CDBG program public hearing. And at this point, we're not getting into specifics on the programs, but Ms. Mitchell, I believe you're just going to introduce the program and lay out a schedule, and later on, we'll see the programs. So Ms. Mitchell, please. And after Ms. Mitchell speaks, then we're going to open the meeting for public hearing, but anyone who wants to speak, it'll be specifically on Community Development Block Grant. And when that's done, if you want to speak on Hamilton Street, we'll get to that. So, welcome, as always.
Well, thank you. Good evening. I'm here to present to you, to the general public, information concerning our Community Development Block Grant Program for the year 2014. This year represents year 5 of our Community Development Block Grant consolidated plan. We will have our funding applications available here for distribution to interested organizations. They're available on the Township webpage, and they're in the Township Clerk's office. The Community Development Block Grant Program provides the Township with a source of funding that benefits low and moderate income residents here in Somerset. We have funding available this year, estimated based on our last year budget of $254,714. The funds may be used for the acquisition of real property, for relocation and demolition, for rehabilitation of residential and non-residential structures, for the construction of public facilities and improvements, for public services, and for the provision of assistance to profit-motivated businesses to do economic development. Here in Franklin, the concentration of the funds has been used primarily for the rehabilitation of low and moderate income single-family homes in Franklin Township. To date, through year 2013, the Township has renovated 39 housing units, spending approximately $677,000 during the course of the past 4 years. As I stated before, eligible applicants may be New Jersey-based nonprofit organizations. They must have 501c3 status with the Internal Revenue Service. And the applications will be submitted. They are due to the Township Clerk's office by March 11th, 2014, at which point we will have a second public hearing on March 25th. At that time, applicants will come before council and plead their case regarding their funding applications. After that, the applications will be reviewed by the Finance Committee, and a decision will be made concerning which applicants will be funded for the year. At that point, we will prepare the action plan and publish it for 30 days, and then return to council on June 24th for approval of the action plan and subsequent submittal to HUD by July 15th of 2014. That is all I have tonight. I am here on Fridays for any of the persons that are interested in applying for the program grant funds. I can say that we have funded this past year several really, I think, worthwhile projects. We have underway currently renovations at the Griggstown Group Home. We're doing a bathroom there. We are also remodeling some kitchens at the Wyland Senior Center on DeMont Lane. And we're doing a group home weatherization project on Charles Street with the funds this year. We're also doing sidewalk improvements on Berry Street. And we're still doing some rehab housing out of the grant funds. We've managed to distribute them, I think, in a way that benefits as many residents in Franklin Township as we could with the funding available. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If no questions from Ms. Mitchell, we'll go into our public hearing. And again, this is, if you want to speak specifically on the CDBG program, afterwards I'll let you know specific where at Hamilton Street. So is there a motion to open the meeting for a public hearing on the 2014 CDBG Community Development Block Grant Program?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on the 2014 CDBG program. Very well explained by Ms. Mitchell. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand when I recognize you. Come up to the podium.
See no one coming to speak on the issue, Mayor, I motion we close the public portion of the hearing.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Public hearing is closed on the 2014 CDBG, and as Ms. Mitchell said, the specifics are going to come before the council. The public certainly will hear that, and the timeline is laid out for when organizations can apply for those funds. Thanks much. So now, as per the motion of Councilman Wright, we're amended the agenda. We're going to go to our public hearing now. And just for, so you know, ordinances are usually voted on twice. The first time they're voted, we vote on an ordinance. Then usually the next meeting, we vote on them again. And at that second meeting, if it passes, it goes into law. And at that second vote, we open it for a public hearing, which is going to happen now so we can hear anything that's on the public's mind regarding particular ordinances. And maybe just as an overview, before we open it up, I might ask Ms. Rainone or to tell us the structure, or Mr. Vornlocker on the Hamilton Street.
Well, Mayor, just, I actually think during public discussion period, I kind of summarized what it is that we've done. We've essentially adopted a structure that has an advisory board, which contains members of council, members of staff, and property owners and tenants in the district. And the advisory board will advise the council, who will serve as the district management corporation. And of course, the council sets the budget every year, so now all council will also be doing is approving the expenditure of funds on an individual basis. The township staff will serve as the staff for the district management corporation. And that is the only change in the Hamilton, in the ordinance itself. It doesn't, we're not changing the scope of the SID, we're not changing the properties affected by the SID, we're not changing the goals of the SID, we're not changing its mission, we're not changing the statutory structure, we're only just changing our ordinance structure so that we can step in now and kind of fix this technical problem that there was with the district management corporation and replace it with the township council. It's not a, this is not an unusual structure. One of the first SIDs in the state was Cranford, New Jersey. If you Google Cranford, New Jersey District Management Corporation, you're going to get the township website. The township's Office of Economic Development is the SID District Management Corporation. They have a budget that's a little bit more than what the township budget is, but effectively, this is, we're not reinventing the wheel. So I just want to make that clear. There are also a couple of other points that the council should know since our last council meeting. One is that I had an opportunity to speak with the executive director of Downtown New Jersey, and you have a letter from him. He has offered, as you can see, any support that he can give us. I spoke to him at length about the exceptional circumstances that occurred here in Franklin. He suggested to me that he thought that the township has taken a reasonable and prudent approach to handling this. My office had a similar conversation with the Department of Community Affairs. I think they now understand, and certainly neither of those groups are raising any objection to what we're doing here. I think everybody understands that this is a little bit of an unusual circumstance, but that the approach that the township has taken is kind of reasonable in an effort to save the SID, keep it in place for all of its benefits, allow the township government to interact with it in a way that's beneficial to the town and beneficial to the district.
Okay, thank you. As a structure point also, the being on the committee will be the majority, well, actually, the voting members, so to speak, will be from the Hamilton Street Business District, though the council will have the final vote on all items. The non-voting members, so that the township can hopefully buy in and help, will be 4 members from the council, representatives from police, planning, engineering, so hopefully we'll work all together to fulfill the goal of, as I always say it, and it can change, just bringing more business to Hamilton Street. Anyone who was on the board before can certainly become a member. As I said earlier, meetings are open to the public, so anyone can give his or her opinion on that also. So in a moment, we'll open it for the public hearing and then any council discussion. So this is item 15C, but it's being done after item number 11 on the agenda. It's ordinance 4053-14, an ordinance amending the municipal code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Code Chapter 23, Hamilton Street Business Community Special Improvement District. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. The public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. So we're now open for public hearing on this ordinance. Our typical policy applies, 5 minutes per person, once per meeting. We don't yield time, and you'll hear a tone go off after 3 minutes, and then after 5 minutes, multiple tones will go off, and I'll ask you to wrap up your thoughts. Please give us your ideas, ask us any questions, and present all your comments to the council. So is there anyone who would like to speak on this ordinance? Mr. Giannato?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
A little better, perhaps?
Yeah, if you're about 3 or 4 inches from the microphone, that's perfect.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think most of you know me. I have been involved with improvement districts.
A little louder so we can all hear him.
I have been involved with improvement districts going back to '92 in many different capacities. I know that Mr. Ranone and Mr. Vornlacher have spent an enormous amount of time putting together this ordinance, and I don't agree with it for the most part. A few issues in there concern me, and also, I believe, downtown New Jersey and the DCA. Although Mr. Ranone has said something differently, I have a different opinion from that. I think one of the major items is the sunset clause. If in fact there will be one, when is it? How long will it be? And at that time, will the management, the DCM, be able to take over their financing and spend the tax money on their own? The other issue is is wording, I guess, of the position of executive director. Within that SID or improvement districts, it has a special meaning. And that person usually is elected by or hired by the SID stakeholders. And because it has a special meaning, I would suggest that we use a different term to the advisory committee's lead person or facilitator, perhaps that word, facilitator. In the redevelopment agency and the housing authority, an executive director, in fact, has to be certified in that position, and I will be certified in that position by June, I hope, as long as I pass the exam. That's not to say this particular person has to be certified to do anything in particular, except be the liaison to the council. Could I get an answer to that sunset clause?
Let me answer your second question first. First, there isn't a provision for executive director, and there is no certification for executive directors for SIDS. I believe that the current plan is to have Mr. Dominic, who's got extensive experience in economic development, to be the township's lead staff person, and there is nothing in the nothing in the ordinance now, nor was there anything in the ordinance, by the way, that calls for the appointment of an executive director. And in fact, executive directors in SIDS are not necessarily, I mean, some SIDS have them and some don't. Some very successful ones don't have them. So that's not there. The second part is that I believe that the ordinance as it's currently structured requires a report to be made to council within 2 years, and for council at that time to make a determination as to the future disposition of the special improvement district. So I guess that after 2 years, the council will decide whether or not it will continue the SID, whether it will continue the SID in this form, or whether it will determine to form its own district management corporation and then transfer the responsibility for the management of the SID to that district management corporation.
Okay. Could you expound on that? The council is going to adjudicate whether or not these people, the SID, has formulated a SID appropriate to the improvement of Hamilton Street. What criteria would they use as an example?
I don't think I said that. I think I said that the council said that after, I think the ordinance says that after 2 years that the council, that there will be a report on the progress.
Okay.
And then at that point in time, council the ordinance calls for council to make a decision as to whether or not it will continue the SID,
Okay.
whether it will continue it in this form, and whether or not it will, and if not, whether it will form a district management corporation and what that will look like.
Okay. All right, thank you. Just the last note is I would volunteer myself as a member of that advisory committee, I suppose is what it's going to be called, formally entering my name into the competition, I suppose.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Vornlacher?
And Mr. Gianna, I'd just like to address that. One of the plans, should this ordinance amendment be adopted tonight and take full effect, is that, you had mentioned that you're interested in the position of being on the advisory board itself. All the members of this SID, both the business owners and property owners, will be solicited by be it Mr. Dominic, myself, Mr. Healy, or some staff members. And the plan is to actually walk Hamilton Street and provide the paperwork to fill out, to vet the potential members of the advisory board. And then the standing members of the advisory board from council will then go through those applications. So you certainly will be more than welcome to submit that. You fall into one of those categories that I spoke of.
Thank you. The reason I mentioned that is because I haven't received anything officially from you or the council in reference to the ongoing procedures that have been taking place. So if there's a list to place me on.
Well, once all of the property owners, the actual taxpayers, received the mail regarding this, and that was something that was not required, but that we chose to do so that we could be as open as we could possibly be. When it comes to the solicitation of members of the SID as a whole for populating this advisory board, the plan is to visit every single member of the SID and solicit their involvement. Okay, so that's when you'll see us.
Thank you.
And Mr. Gino, I know you're interested. I'll personally guarantee you know when that's happening. And when you said sunset, as a practical matter, the council votes for the budget every year anyway.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. Yeah, I understand that. I would have liked to have seen an actual date as to when the council is going to make this decision. And Mr. Bornlacher has made it perfectly clear that in 2 years you will definitely revisit it. So I'm satisfied with that.
And what I can tell you is that now, because staff is involved, and this is my kind of take on this and where we will go with this, and my intention here is that, we have a staff member, whether we call him an executive director or president or whatever name you want to come up with, it doesn't really matter. I don't think that he particularly cares either. In this particular case, my anticipation is that there's an 18-month period that we would, in the beginning, starting at the enactment of this ordinance amendment, on 6-month intervals, provide detailed reports to the entire council at a council meeting as to what the progress has been made up to that point. At the 18-month mark, we would give them a third report that would include all of that activity over that 18-month period. And then council would be given certainly a significant amount of time, because there should be a significant amount of deliberation as to whether or not this SID stays in place or is altered in some way or is discontinued altogether. And that's the sunset that we speak of in this ordinance, and that's what that portion of the ordinance amendment, I think, allows for. And that, so I can speak from the administrative end of this as to what I anticipate happening, and as someone who, if this takes place, would be on that board, I think I am in a position to make that happen.
Okay, thank you. You brought up something else, if I may take another second.
Yeah, go ahead.
The question of remuneration for the position of facilitator, executive director, president, whatever. Is that coming out of the funds that is the tax money from the SID taxpayers? Or is that coming out of general funds?
You mean like they paid for the executive director out of the taxpayer money? It would come from the tax.
Okay, all right. And I didn't mean any slight towards Vince. I worked with Vince regularly, actually, on the redevelopment agency and other issues, so it has nothing to do with his...
I didn't take it as any slight against Vince, not at all. No, I'm just saying it would be funded if there's additional responsibilities for that staff member to specifically deal with SID-related issues. My anticipation is that any remuneration that the person would receive would come from that SID tax money.
Okay, fair, thank you.
It would only be the increase in that remuneration, not anything.
Correct. He has other responsibilities. That would just be...
So any time spent would be then somehow figured out per hour or whatever?
The manager would decide. It might be just a standard amount, an annual amount.
It'll be capital and not time off, I would suppose.
It would be a stipend for additional work done that would be approved by council as part of the budget process.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Very good. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Remy.
Good evening. My name is Remy. I'm the old president of Hamilton District. But advisory committee, I think the council members should look into the owner of the people who own the building on Hamilton Street and has a business on Hamilton Street. I think we have a lot to lose by picking somebody as a tenant or somebody who pretend to be a tenant on Hamilton Street. And that's all I think we should look into. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on this particular? Yes.
My name is, good afternoon. My name is Geneva Hall. I'm a property owner on Hamilton Street. Also, a participant in the Hamilton Street Business District. And my concerns are that after 10 years, now all of a sudden, the Hamilton Street Business District, determined by the council, is not operating in a manner that you feel that they cannot continue with this present system. And as a business owner, in listening to some of the things that's been said so far, and with this gentleman here, and it seems like then the property owners who this thing was set up for, to improve Hamilton Street and improve their economic stand in the community, it's going to be a problem. Because you're going to take all the issues that we may have out of our hands. You're going to decide what you deem is economically feasible for our street. Even though we agree, we may not agree. And do we really have any, will we really have any, real input on what goes on? And now you're saying that now you're going to restructure everything and pick who you want on these boards. This thing has been going on for 10 years. There's a lot of people on the block haven't really participated. And now it seems like something big is going on here and everything now is going to change. So I feel like we're in the dark because we don't really know what's going on and why all of a sudden the big changes. So that's my main concern. I feel that we're losing control as to what we would like to see in our community. Like we have some things set up, you're probably going to just exclude those things. And they've been going on for 3 or 4 years now already. So that's my major concern. I mean, I see that it's now it's not in the control of the people who pay the taxes. We pay that special tax. If we don't really have a say, then we shouldn't have the special tax. Just let the tax that we already pay do the job of paying somebody some extra money because he's handling this without our say so.
To answer your question, the impetus for changing was that technically the board wasn't voted in properly. I won't go through the details. So we had to come back and form a new group, new committee, a new structure. And any recommendations, I think it's 11 members from the business district, 10 and then 1 at large. Any recommendations to the council will come from those people. Now, there'll be council members, representative of the engineer, the police on that committee, but only the representatives who have businesses or property owners on Hamilton Street will be able to vote the recommendation to council. Now, you're correct, council has the right to overrule them if it feels like it. I'm not going to say that's not the case. So when they make the recommendation to council, that group, then the council votes on it. I suspect, it's been generally about 100,000 a year. I suspect, though you never know what's going to happen, and that it's going to stay at that rate, so your tax will be the same. I haven't heard anyone changing it. I don't suspect anyone would want to change that to anything higher. So the cost to you would be the same. The representatives could, a good part, be the same as they were. And again, the council will pick those before the board perpetuated itself, so that is something also. But we're going to open it up to everyone. And again, they're public meetings, so anyone can come to the meeting and give his or her input. And before the council votes on the budget or anything else, just like now, the public can come in and say, I don't like this line item, I don't like how you're allocating your money.
Well,
So
who's going
hopefully
to
it's
set the criteria?
not to disenfranchise the public, it's to enfranchise, if that's a word. Go
Well,
ahead.
who's going to set the criteria as to who you're going to put on these boards?
It's going to be, the public's going to apply, so to speak, say they want to, and then it will be a council decision.
Exactly. So you'll pick and choose who you want on the board, whether they have our whole interests or not. I mean, people that have not been involved for 10 years now want to be involved because some big picture, I don't know what it is, but they never cared before. We've walked those streets and we've asked for participation, and only a few people who really wanted to participate participated. And then there's people who have been on this board for years and just devoted a lot of their time to it, and then they've just been like, you're gone. Sorry, you're off.
I don't.
I mean, that's a
suspect that
major
to be the
concern
case.
for me.
Councilman
So, Mayor,
That's a major concern for me.
I just want to comment separately, but first of all, it's my understanding, and I think the ad hoc committee, that that number is set at 11, with the hopes and the idea and possibility of it being increased. In other words, there's been different segments of people involved. Whether it's someone that wasn't involved for 10 years, someone that's been involved for 10 years, quite frankly, I'd like to see everybody come to the table.
Yes.
So I understand the concern, and you've been a dedicated volunteer that I know has done a lot, along with many people, some which faded away, some which stayed the whole time, been there for years, off and on, whatever. I'd like to see this group expand. I think it's important that we get as many people buy-in as possible, meaning to get involved with this. And although there may be only 11 spots, maybe we increase to 15, but we are hoping that there's some offshoots, some subcommittees that you don't have to be a member. In other words, there's plenty of work and opportunity for anybody, whether you're picked in the initial round, added when we add more members, or serve in a subcommittee of sorts. I think part of the problem is off and on for 10 years. The tax hasn't been around for 10 years, I'm pretty sure, though. I also want to have people understand that. The group just, took 2 or 3 years just to kind of get off the ground. And then the tax came in, our clerk might be able to verify then, but there's some rumor we've been collecting tax 10 or 12 years. I could be wrong, I don't believe we have. Okay, 2007. So we've been collecting taxes for 6.5 years. So just let people, for clarification. But yeah, we need everybody, or as many people as possible, because it's not going to work. And I think that's part of the problem is we've had groups of people that well-intended, and I know we went out and people say we didn't embrace everybody. I know there was efforts by both 2 or 3 administrations, so to speak, different presidents, to embrace. And unfortunately, people didn't get involved. I'm not blaming any shop owner or new or old tenant.
Because they still won't.
But let's see, or at least this is my feeling, and I think most of the council, let's see if this structure can work. And as a safeguard, we've set some kind of sunset clause, which I'm going to ask formally after we're done with this, to just, I feel is better to be moved to December 31st, 2015 for some practical reasons, but that's not a major change. If council wants to do it, and we're allowed to, maybe we can. But either way, I think I've said it before, the town has to buy in now. And for those people that are concerned like you are about control being taken away, the advisory board, only people who vote, and a printed recommendation comes to council, are those 11 people. And like I said, that number can increase. Council, I believe, would respond to that, as the mayor and others have suggested, unless there's some compelling reason. And that may lead to some healthy discussion and debate. But
this is either, my feeling, either going to be more signs of success. I think there's been a lot of successes, but not big ones and not consistently. We're going to start having to see them, or most likely then dissolve or find a completely different path. This is not that different other than the structure. Technically, the town can vote yea or nay, but this is going to work because it's a group effort that people are all in the same, have the same desire of success, or it's going to not succeed. So all I can tell you is it's not perfect. I'm sure other people, council people will chime in, but the structure does have opportunity for success, in my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can policy, people come up once per meeting, so I'm sorry. So is there anyone who hasn't spoke? Ms. Saba, did you want to speak?
Actually, I have heard about this on and off, but I've never been involved in any of this. But I'm hearing this, and especially hearing a business person or somebody who is in the middle of, would be affected in the middle of this. My question is, are you having town halls about this? Are you getting community to maybe give the name of 25, 30 people with their application and all that? Of course, that they would think they are qualified to participate in this. And of course, I'm thinking out loud, but I just thought maybe to speak to this, because when the council says that we are going to get application and we pick, the community usually doesn't feel comfortable, because they think they're being overpowered. But if, for the success of this, and everybody wants the project to succeed, I assume, that maybe it's a good idea to get the community have larger input about, you can get all the application you want, but also for the community to come together maybe after a couple of town meeting and discussion and all that, and make suggestions, and then with the support of some community leader, you pick and choose who is qualified. Maybe I want to come, but I have no qualification to come and get involved with that. No, what I'm saying that there are people in the community that they don't have qualification to be involved in it, but maybe to be more inclusive of the community and get community involved in picking and choosing rather than the council itself. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Okay, thank you. And kind of in response to what you're asking about the composition, as our manager, Mr. Vornlocker, alluded before, our staff is going to go door to door to every business in this special improvement district to let them know they have the opportunity to be on the board and to participate in different ways. So we are absolutely having a public outreach in that way. And it's actually no different than it was in the past. We could certainly hold town hall meetings, just like the board had that opportunity in the past. So that could be what the board chooses to do. And again, we're going to proactively go to all the businesses so everyone's knowledgeable. Mr. Giannato?
Pat Giannato, property owner, business owner, and resident in Hamilton Street Business District area. I wasn't going to get up and say anything, but I think this is going in the right direction. First of all, it needed a little bit of reorganization. I agree with that. I think the way it's designed at this point in time, you are getting more township staff involved, okay? It's something that's needed. I think it'll go forward faster with the township staff involved. That's the way it started out in the beginning. We had our police department was heavily involved, which is one of the things we need to have heavily involved in that area. And you've got a lot of expertise that they're going to bring to the table of Hamilton Street. And with that, that'll come back to the council and make this thing move forward faster and better. The only thing that I don't like is dragging a little bit right now, where you need to get this reorganized and back on track and working and getting this thing going in the right direction. My first reaction was, oh, I didn't like this, I didn't like that. I think it's going in the right direction. And Please, just keep moving it forward faster. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Like, as our policy, as I said, people can come up once per session. Yes.
Art Heinrich. I have a kind of fledgling business on 6 Hawthorne Drive. It's the last house in the district, in the SID over there. I saw some telemetry units doing some measurements across the street where St. Peter and Paul Church is. Is there going to be any construction done anytime soon in that area?
I don't think anything's before planning.
I can tell you that our zoning board and our planning board have received no applications for any type of construction on the St. Peter and Paul Church site on Hawthorne Drive. No, you can't.
And
Okay.
that's all we can go by, who's made an application.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone who hasn't spoken would like to, I mean, if you've spoken in public, you can certainly do so now.
Privately, no.
But who hasn't done at this point yet? Mr. Park? And your name once more.
Yeah, my name's John Park. I represent Nora Shopping Center, which is on Hamilton Street. I certainly agree with a lot of the people who actually came up here and voiced their opinions, especially Mr. Giannato. I definitely agree that, in order for businesses and property owners to prosper in Hamilton District, we definitely need more help from the city, from the police department, from the council. We have to get, ordinances or any sort of things that will help the business owners and property owners to prosper, and we have to keep moving forward. But I also share the same opinion that Ms. Hall and also Mr. Remy had, which is we feel that, for example, there are a lot of people who have been involved actively to make the district better, and even though the things were moving at a very slow pace, not because of their fault, but because of the situations and because of the circumstances, they feel, and I agree with their sentiment. We feel like the powers could be taken away with a different structure. For example, when we had Hamilton District Corporation, it was comprised of business owners and property owners, and the final say was actually done by, whatever that was voted on by those individuals. But this structure is going to be different. And we want to make sure that people who are on, or who will be on the advisory board, are those people who are representing business owners and also the property owners, so that, that there won't be any roadblocks, and also people who actually have put their energy and sweat for many years, and it's their livelihood, will not be affected by this. Thank you.
Okay. I'm just going to ask our attorney, Ms. Renone, to address at least one of those points in there.
Yeah, I want to make sure that on this issue of selection of the advisory board, in some respects, the reason why we're here today is because the district corporation was supposed to go through a process to select its board members and didn't do it. So the fact that the problem is this, is that the township formed a district management corporation, and there was an initial board of trustees. They were supposed to have elections every year, and they never had one. So when you say we should keep the process in place that's in place now because it had the people voting on who was on the board, the fact of the matter is that that's not true. So what forced the council to get involved here was the fact that there was a dispute as to who was on the board and who wasn't, and the manager and I were asked to look at it to determine who should be on the board and who shouldn't, and we realized that the board had never actually done that. Now, I'm not suggesting that there weren't very good people who volunteered and gave a lot of time and were, really cared about Hamilton. And that's not what I'm saying. And that's why I said earlier in my opening statement that, there was a technical issue here that we had to do. But and the only reason I even say this tonight is to correct the misperception that somehow we went from a system where all of the property owners voted on who was on the Board of Trustees, and we're now going to a position where kind of Big Brother is doing it. So I just want to, my purpose here is not to have a debate. I just want to make sure, I know the council all knows that, but I think that's important to point out. Maybe Mr. Vornlacher, it looks like.
Mr. Vornlacher?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think I'd just like to address some of those issues. As Mr. Raynone said, I was requested to look into a dispute among several members of the SID as to who was properly seated on the Board of Trustees. What came out of that investigation was that there were no members other than the appointed council members that were properly seated on the Board of Trustees, and that the primary reason, as I worked through this investigation, and I think this is kind of a key element here of why we're at where we are today, the reason why elections weren't held and the reason why the board wasn't properly constituted was because there was a general lack of ability to get a quorum together to actually have meetings, and that it was too frequent an occurrence to have meetings without a quorum, and therefore the members who, and as Mr. Raynone said, who were very, very dedicated to the effort to try to improve Hamilton Street, the active members who participated in these Board of Trustee meetings were too small a number to actually have meetings with a quorum. And that's why there were never any elections, as I was told, was because there weren't enough people to actually run for the positions on the Board of Trustees, because all of the responsibilities were falling on the shoulders of a very, very small number of people who were active. And so I think that the idea behind having a large number, I mean, the bylaws, which weren't being followed, the bylaws called for a 15-member board. And so there was this difficulty in getting enough active involvement from the members of the SID. So then the decision, whether it was a decision conscious or unconscious, there was just no elections held. So I think that that's the part of what I'm disputing the most here, is that there was this overwhelming involvement from the members of the SID, and what I see historically since the beginning has been an underwhelming involvement, and the hope here was that by reconfiguring this with this ordinance amendment, that the town staff could maybe kind of invigorate the members of the SID to get more involved and give it some more guidance and bring it along in a faster way. At least that's what my take on the ad hoc committee's efforts were.
Okay. Anyone who has not spoke, would like to speak at this point? Yes, Mr. Savage.
Good evening. You hear me?
Yes, sir.
And
And again, your name once more.
John Baptist. I have property 858 Hamilton Street. I've been there since 1970, and I've seen these efforts come and go. And here a while ago, I lambasted you for creating this ordinance in the beginning and not having oversight over it. And a lot of stuff went on that wasn't done the way it should have been. We spent a lot of money for stuff that was unnecessary, that we didn't really need, wasn't going to have a positive effect in the area. So I just want to give you kudos this time for trying to get a handle on this thing, and also for setting a time limit that if it doesn't work, then you either get rid of it or try something else. I mean, if you keep doing the same thing over and over and it doesn't work, that's kind of stupid. So I just want to tell you, I appreciate the effort that you're trying to put into this, and hopefully the business will do better. And if I ever get ready to sell my building, maybe I can get what it's worth instead of having to give it away to somebody for half its value just because nobody wants it. So I thank you again for the effort that you're going to put into this, and I'll probably submit my name as one of those people, you know, to have an input into what's going on. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Baptist. Other members of the public who haven't spoke would like to?
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one from the public coming forward, I suggest we close the public session.
Seconded.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed for this ordinance. Thank you for the very well-thought input.
Mr. Mayor?
And Mr. Rainone.
Yes, and as you know, we've actually discussed the quote-unquote sunset clause in the ordinance, and that actually has to be added to the ordinance tonight. It'll be a minor change. I understand from Councilman Vasanella that he has a desire to make it, instead of 2 years, to say that the report will be issued by December 31st, 2015.
That would be my desire. Just so council realizes, that's just cutting it by like 5 weeks or so. Just that I thought it'd be more practical because of a lot of reasons that we can go into if council is concerned, but if you were council, or you were manager of Vornlocker, don't see that.
I talked to Mr. Dominic, and he doesn't have an issue with it. I certainly don't, and the reason I raise it now is because procedurally, if there's no objection to putting that language in, then we can just amend the ordinance one, rather than amending it and then go back and amending it again. And it's still a minor change. I don't have a problem with that. So if there isn't I'm not, excuse me, I just became the mayor. Go ahead, Mayor. I was almost called for the roll call.
I was just going to mention a couple of the reasons. I didn't want anybody to think that there was any ulterior motives or agenda.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're hoping that one of the things I'm hoping to see is we have 2 different tax years relevant to the tax for SID and our annual budget. So that and other possible contractual issues, employee, I'm going to let Manager Vornlocker speak on it, but just, there's no ulterior motive, just in my mind, just to make it more practical. And then also, all 9 people here, regardless of what happens in the election 2 years from now, who are taking this bold, and although the manager said we want to invigorate as many people on the street to get involved, business owners, I also see it, and I think it was discussed in our ad hoc committee, this is to invigorate council and staff to get a much more active approach. So for many reasons, I think it's more practical, but yes.
I have absolutely no objection to December 31st. I can't think of any reason, but I see Councilman Kramer is raising his hand, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, Councilman Kramer?
Thank you. So this is actually exactly what I was calling for a couple of weeks ago, so I'm happy with that. We have in here this language then, however, that it's basically the last paragraph, 2311, biannual report. A biannual report shall be prepared by the Hamilton Street Advisory Board outlining progress made with respect to the Hamilton Street Business Community Special Improvement District over the preceding 2 years. The report shall be forwarded for review by the Township Council. Upon report of said report, I don't like that wording, the Township Council will render a decision regarding the future disposition of the Special Improvement District. So with this idea, that makes that paragraph a little bit out of sync.
I think the simple way to change it, Councilman, is just to take a biannual report that says, it should say, on or before December 31st, 2015, a report shall be prepared. And I think that the word in the last sentence, the first report should be upon review instead of report. So I think the language is actually fine if you just change biannual to on or before December 31st, 2015. And then that solves the problem.
I think that it's more...
Whoa, still have the floor. And thank you.
Continue.
Yes, thank you. The other thing I would like is that report, this is biannual, the one prior to the December 31st, so basically, I guess that would be July 31st, that be done in public. It's not just a piece of paper handed to council, that it be a
Absolutely.
council discussion item, right? And I don't know that this has to be actually written in the ordinance, as long as there is an understanding among us that that's going to be delivered in public, right here at that table, so that it's in our face, and it's done 6 months in advance, because one thing I can't stand that happens, and it's kind of happening tonight, is that we have a gun to our head, figuratively, and have to make a decision tonight. So I want that done 6 months in advance, so that we have plenty of time to act.
Actually, I think that the way, let me just say that, by doing that, all you've done is effectively say the report has to be done in a year and a half. I think that the concept was, unless I'm wrong, is you'll get a report by the end of 2015, and therefore you can decide what, you're going to have an assessment for 2014 and an assessment for 2015. On December 31st, you'll have a report. It'll be, and then you'll have it well in advance of the time for you to make the decision as to whether or not to do it for 2016.
And when will we be deciding in 2016?
You'll be deciding right around budget time. So it'll be 4 or 5 months into 2016 in the normal course when you would do the Hamilton Street Assessment District. Right? So I think the way it was structured, and actually Councilman Vasanella's amendment actually makes it a much better structure, which is you'll have the report by the end of the year, and you'll have it in plenty of time so you can make a decision as to whether or not in 2016 you want to continue or not continue the process. Because if you do it in July, as a practical matter, you've already got, you do it in July, 2 months before that, or you will have assessed for the entire year. So it kind of makes sense that you're buying into 2014 and 2015, and then you'll have this report in plenty of time. Is that good?
And the only thing I'll add to that, we don't, again, we don't have to necessarily write it in there, but that if we're going to have the presentation, I think it is a good idea to have it at this table, and as much time as we need at a council meeting with as many people involved, and probably not have it actually in December, maybe because of the holiday, whatever, those are things we could work out, but to be as inclusive with that report presentation as possible.
I'm still not done.
I'm sorry, Councilman Kramer.
Okay,
I thought you were done.
Kramer, keep going.
Thank you. Because I did hear what people had to say here. I am worried that we are bringing it farther from the people. One thing, and it doesn't have to be written here, council will decide, we didn't say how we will decide. If so desired, council could hold a vote and use that as at least a recommendation as to who to put there. I'm not saying that that's going to govern my vote or not, just a suggestion out there. I am glad that Mr. Dominic will be running this. I think that will put a lot of energy in it, and I would urge Mr. Dominic that it sounds like during most of this time, it's really going to be planning, going to be figuring out, maybe doing some rezoning, maybe doing a study or two. So I would, while you'll be collecting money, as a thought, you may want to spend as little of it as possible so that when everything's ready to go, you'll have a pot of money sitting there to go with. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, Councilman Vasanella?
I don't really have much to add. I'm sorry I interrupted Councilman Kramer. The only thing that I want to mention, because it was brought up, and I am sensitive, as I think we all are, to the people who feel that they may be disenfranchised to a degree, and they've committed, whether in the past or in the last several years, all this energy. Well, I can only speak for myself, but I think the advisory ad hoc committee did discuss, and I think even Mr. Raynone and Manager Vorlacher suggested in public.
Let's keep it to the amendment.
Right,
We'll discuss the entire ordinance.
Okay, well, this is something I don't believe we have to put in an amendment, and I'll get to that one second, but we can take that word advisory out at the end of this 2 years, or at any time in between, if it's seen as a good way to move. In other words, that advisory is not permanent forever. So that's something I think would be discussed, and I'll get to the sunset clause right now, Mayor, prior to that sunset, as part of that final report. So I will motion, as described by our attorney, that the sunset clause is changed to December 31st. If that's all I have to, unless there's anything else I have
You
to
want
add
me to
to
read it
it.
again, Mayor?
Okay, since this was put before, it was never actually moved. If there's no objection, we'll use that wording with December 31st, and I'll ask Mr. Raynon, please read it. for
Yeah,
us.
just so we have it. So it'll read now, on or before December 31st, 2015, a report shall be prepared by the Hamilton Street Advisory Board outlining progress made with respect to the Hamilton Street Business Community Special Improvement District over the preceding 2-year period. This report shall be forwarded for review by the Township Council. Upon review of said report, the Township Council will render a decision regarding the future disposition of the Special Improvement District.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, Councilman Wright.
now that everyone has put their 5 cent, 2 cent, 10 cents in there, I'd like to throw mine in there,
Absolutely.
if it's okay.
I look forward.
I've listened to, again, I've listened to what everyone has said, and the comments and the suggestions are beautiful. But this thing has been sitting there for a very long time without any guidance, as it were. And now all of a sudden I hear all this beautiful sunset clauses, I hear all kind of things floating out there. And I want to say, not to those that are here right now, because some of us were not here when this thing started. And I think if we were, we would have been on point with this. And I want to thank Councilman Kramer for just jumping in there and just running with the ball. I want to thank our attorney. I want to thank our township administrator. But to our new executive director, well, we have to get along with that road, Vince Dominic. There's a lot of things that have to be done here. And if one is not done and you skip over another, and before you know it's December 31st, and we haven't accomplished everything, then everybody's going to throw that little ball in there and say, whoops, let's get rid of it. And I'm saying that's all well and good. I represent the 4th Ward. I want to see change done, and I'm willing to fight and go down the road for it. So as long as we understand that, and as long as you're able to stand up at the microphone and say why we shouldn't do it, or why we should do this or do that, let me remind you that for 10 years, this thing has sat out there, and the council did boo. So I appreciate the amendments. They sound great. But once again, I will shout from the rooftops, I will shout everywhere I can that this council has once again thrown away the 4th Ward to have it just fade away, and when we could do something, didn't do something. So my residents are left to their own device. Hamilton Street, as it is, does not have a lot of businesses. Let's get that real clear. Let's also get clear that the businesses that are on Hamilton Street, they've been there forever, and some of them make money and some of them don't. And I want every last one of them to make money. God, I want them to make money. I want everybody to make money. But I just caution you that as this thing goes down the road and we start picking up steam, and some of us want to kick it, throw it out, and with the bath water and everything else, Carl Wright sitting down here at the other end, I'm going to have a whole lot of mouth then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is for my own edification. I'm not being facetious, I'm just asking. You're disapproving of the amendment because you want to give it more time to...
No, I'm fine. Go down the road with it.
We didn't get a second.
Okay. Okay. All right, so,
I'll second it.
okay. So there was a motion, who did that, on the amendment, and a second. Is there any further discussion on it? Just for me, I think Councilman Wright makes a good point there. I'd like to see this given a chance where this is February, it's going to be maybe late February by the time this gets implemented. The report's going to have to be done in a year and a half. It's a little bit of a short time, seeing that's been going for 10 years, to me, to put together a report, and then the council can kill it, which I really don't want to see happen, but I would like to see progress within there. As a practical matter, the council can defund it at any time. It's, we can reduce the funding, we can increase the funding. The idea of giving a report so that council can follow what's happening is a good concept, though, for me. So that's all. Two pieces of it in my mind. Anything else on this amendment? Okay. So Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on the amendment. This is on the ordinance. This is the amendment to put in a report, and in essence, we call it sunset provision, which isn't technically, but it's in that genre. Okay, so please.
Councilman Chase?
No, I'd rather have it be to 2 years, say, from tonight or from when the ordinance officially takes effect.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
No.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
No.
Okay, so I get 4-3.
No, there were 3 no votes. We're 3.
4-3.
4-3, and 2 aren't here, equals 9. Okay, so the amendment passes. So now we go back to the original ordinance, and I don't think we moved it yet, did we?
No.
Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance as we just amended it, and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. So is there discussion on the ordinance itself? And I'll just say with my thing, I can see the public's concern. If I were in your shoes, I may not trust that people up here were going to always pick the right people, too. I can actually see that. Hopefully, we will make the decisions, and it will be an open process. And whatever comfort that gives you. Any others? Okay, so Ms. McCarthy, please pull the council on ordinance 4053-14, which is 15C on the agenda, as amended, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay, motion is carried. So you'll see us proceeding on this, the notification, and again, I look forward to many people being involved in this. So that was item 15C, moved to after item number 11. So now we go back to our agenda, with item number 12, council discussion items. We have one today. Schedule the 2014 budget hearing dates.
Yeah, fine. Good job.
And Ms. McCarthy, you have suggestions for us? In your wisdom?
The proposed schedule is based on how council has done it the previous 2 years, where it's 3 budget hearings in March. One is March 10th, Monday, March 10th. The second one is Thursday, March 13th. And the last one, if needed, would be Monday, March 24th. And your regular meetings during that month are Tuesday, March 11th, and Tuesday, March 25th.
And Ms. McCarthy, those would be at 7 p.m.?
Correct.
Unless someone wants it earlier. Okay, so that's, do I vote on that? I'm asking Mr. Reno.
Well, I assume you're going to have to schedule special meetings, right?
Yes.
So you're going to have to take a vote if you're going to do that, because the clerk is going to have to
Renotice.
renotice.
Okay, so I do by voice vote, right?
Yeah, you can, Mayor, yes.
It's okay? All right. So is there any other
Just-
suggestion, Councilman Kramer?
Quickly, Mr. Vornlocker, because we were going to start this Thursday with our financial oversight meetings, and you've scheduled snow for Thursday night.
I have done that, yes.
And for March 13th also.
On that direct line up there, I said, bring it on Thursday, so I don't have to have financial oversight.
Right. I tried to override you, but the Faulkner Act prevented it.
It has been a discussion that I have had with staff members today about the fact that in all likelihood, we will not be having that meeting on Thursday night. There was in fact some discussion about a possibility of a meeting on Tuesday night next week and then Thursday night of next week as well. I know that there were some conflicts. I think that in the event that we do cancel Thursday night's financial oversight meeting, we will probably be rescheduling at some point next week and doubling up because of the need to get it done. The reason I say that is just simply because I think that we need to meet certain deadlines and we need to get the full council budget hearings done along the timetable that the clerk has indicated.
We're already meeting on the 18th, which is Tuesday.
That's what I'm saying. So I think that if I need to reschedule department heads to come to financial oversight, I think I can do it within the dates that we had chosen at financial oversight at the last meeting and just cram everyone in. It will mean just taking the two departments that I plan to bring there on Thursday on one of the days next week. So it just means longer nights, Councilman.
Scratch your head and see if we need to add a weekend night, as painful as that is.
It's not, Councilman, I just want to say, it's not painful for me because I seem to be either on the phone or the computer all weekend anyway. I have department heads that are not scheduled to work on weekends. And I understand what you're saying, but then there are issues that go beyond just the normal scheduling issues during the week.
Okay, so everyone's, the dates as said by Ms. McCarthy, end at 7 p.m. That's good for everyone. If no discussion, is there a motion for the dates as Ms. McCarthy said it?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion is carried. Now, thanks, Ms. McCarthy, and we'll see it sunshined as usually nicely. Okay, so now we come to number 13, approval of the minutes. We have two. We have the minutes of the Township Council work session regular meeting of January 28th, 2014 at 7 p.m. And we have the Township Council executive session minutes of January 28th, 2014. Is there a motion that the aforesaid minutes be approved as submitted?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on approval of the minutes.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella? Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay. Motion is carried. Now we have approval of the warrants. The warrants are the bills that we pay, and warrants in the amount of $5,179,839.86 on February 11th, 2014 are presented to the Township Council for payment. Is there a motion to pay the warrants as read?
So moved.
Second.
Move second. No discussion? Madam Clerk, please poll the council on payment of the warrants.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Sure.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Now we have three ordinance second readings and hearings, one of which we have already done. So we have 15A, ordinance 4050-14. It's an ordinance authorizing the Township of Franklin to amend a conservation easement it has in real property known as 9 Matawang Drive and identified on the township's tax maps as Block 37.03, Lot 3, and authorizing the acceptance of an amended conservation easement over the same property. This is basically on someone's property. There's about 250 square feet, of which we're getting an easement. That's basically it. Correct. The township attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. The public hearing is in order. Is there a motion for a public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Moved. Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public discussion on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, I believe there's correspondence in the blue folders of council, the reference to this particular ordinance from Mr. Dominic.
Correct.
Has that been rectified?
No, and
I know.
I believe that we are going to hold the public hearing and then close it and
Okay,
then
I
table
just
it.
want to make sure that everybody had seen the folder, that's all.
All right, no, thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Seeing no one coming forward, I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public discussion is closed on this ordinance. Thank you. And as Mr. Vornlocker aptly pointed out, on this one, a little technical issue. We need final DEP approval. So I guess we should table this until we get that and then can have our final vote. Okay?
That's correct.
Okay. And not that we don't like it, but...
So you need a motion to table.
So motion to table.
Yes.
Second.
Okay. And second, is there discussion?
There's no discussion on table.
Okay. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on the motion to table.
Councilman Chase?
I really don't want to table this. It's such a minor issue, but I'll say no.
Okay.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay. Motion is carried. When that issue gets rectified, it'll come, we'll vote to take it off table and move it. Okay, so the final of our ordinance hearings and adoption on second reading is 15B on the agenda, 4050-14, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 236 Municipal Services, Schedule A, modify street lighting, Sterling Point. This is basically where, as required by law, the council will take up payment of the street lighting for Sterling Point. I have that okay? Okay. Which we do for communities such as that. The township attorney has approved the affidavit of publication, and a public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for a public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public discussion on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Seeing no one come forward, motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing, public discussion is closed for this ordinance. Thank you very much. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please poll the council on item 15B, ordinance 4051-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
I hate it, but yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay, motion is carried. Next, we have ordinances on introduction and first reading. This would be the first reading before, like the ones we just voted. We do not have any to introduce this meeting. That brings us to the consent agenda. Consent agenda are items of a general routine nature that we can vote on, upon which the council can vote in one vote. It's any council person's prerogative to take something off for a separate vote if he or she wishes to. So the consent agenda portion of this meeting, items 17 through 17A through 17Z, are presented to the Township Council. Is there a motion for the consent agenda or discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on the consent agenda.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer? Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay, motion is carried. Next, we have item 18, resolutions to be voted on separately. We do not have any for this evening. Item 19, old business, 2014 vacancies on boards, commissions, committees. Are there nominations for any vacant positions? If none, then we will go to our resolution for executive session.
Redevelopment.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, pardon me. Councilman Wright, please go ahead.
Give me 1 second. 1 second. I almost messed that one up, Mr. Mayor. The redevelopment agency, we had a resignation at the last meeting, and we want to bring on a gentleman that lives in the 4th Ward, and I think this gentleman would bring some light to us, and his name is Ike Agadosi. So I'd like him put on the redevelopment agency.
Seconded.
Pardon me. Did we get
He does have an application, and that was Councilman Kramer's question.
Yes.
Okay, so Ike Agadoshi to the redevelopment agency. And you have at your fingertips that term? If not, we'll just, whatever the empty slot is.
Oh, yeah, the term expires the end of this, I think the end of this year.
Okay.
So you would have to be
Right, 12/31.
reappointed again in
This is a 5-year
January.
appointment.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Are there any other nominations for the redevelopment agency? Okay, all in favor of Mr. Agadosi, by acclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Thank you, congratulations, and thank you for your service to our town. Are there other nominations? Okay, so next we come to our executive session. Executive session is when council meets in private, and there's only certain times the council can meet in private, such as contract negotiations, attorney-client privilege, and personnel matters. And when the subject of that executive session no longer needs to be made private, the minutes of that meeting will be made public. So we have an executive session today. It's Resolution 14-112. It's to authorize an executive session personnel annual review of the township clerk. This is presented to the Township Council for adoption. Is there a motion for the resolution for executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on the motion for executive session.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay, motion is carried. We're going to go into executive session for the item I delineated. After executive session, we will come back here and take 2 votes. One vote will be to come out of executive session, and then another vote to adjourn the meeting. So because there's no other substantive issues, we're going to stop our filming now. So for all of us, have a good President's Day weekend. Happy Valentine's Day, and hope you stay nice and safe and warm during any upcoming storms.